WBVP and WMBA, its staff, management, and advertisers. Thank you for listening to WBVP and WMBA.
The following program is for mature and logical audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Play YMCA. Go ahead. Let's go. Nice and loud.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Thinking Logically. It's your handsome host, Joseph Anthony Corsai, and what do we tell you? Lots happening since the last episode, and looking to the future, lots happening this upcoming weekend. We got a military parade in D.C. We have planned protests across the nation against just the same exact military parade happening in D.C. Those are called, I guess they're calling this one the No Kings protest. Not sure who came up with that name. Someone affiliated with George Soros or a globalist NGO, though, I'm sure. What else do we have going on? Oh, we got curfews in Los Angeles going on all of a sudden. What's that about? A big giant wedding this weekend between Alex Soros, who I assumed was gay, and Huma Abedin, who used to be married to a man named Anthony Weiner. Speaking of them two, that actually might be the question of the day. What is an appropriate gift to give at the Soros-Abedin wedding? What else have we seen since the last episode? Ryan, the Pirates lost one, but they won. They swept They sweep the Phillies?
They did. They swept the Phillies. They won 6 of their last 8. And since the new coach took over, they are 1 game over 500. So
you know what sucks? They're still 12 games back 500. That's so sad.
13 now.
Oh, that's right. They lost yesterday.
Yeah, they lost, which dropped them down to 14.5 in the division back. And then also, as you said, but you know, it's certainly looking a little better from that first 2 months. That was a disaster. So hopefully they could get it together enough to have a respectable season.
Yes, absolutely. I have to say, so you know I'm we're going from sports to history, I guess, right now. You know I'm an amateur historian. You remember that?
Absolutely.
Did you see the new take, or have heard the new take from these protesters that California is actually stolen land from Mexico? Because that's what we're going to transition to. We're still going to cover the LA.
Yeah.
California is actually stolen land from Mexico. So again, audience, if you're just tuning in, that's the new position from the left. California is actually rightfully Mexican land. That's where we are now. I'm serious. They're claiming that because California was owned by Mexico over 2 centuries ago, mind you, and for like 2 decades, Mexico has the best claim to California. So Mexico owned California for 20 years after they declared their independence from Spain. Let's investigate the whole claim made by these left that California is actually stolen land from Mexico. So let's rewind back to the 1500s. So from the 1500s until 1821, Spain held the land that basically encompasses all of California, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, even parts of Colorado. That was all Spain since 1500, from 1500 to 1821. Then, for 20 years, Mexico held onto that land until, of course, the Mexican-American War. Since then, all that land has been our property, U.S. property, for over 200 years. 200 years. So we actually have the strongest claim. Followed by, if you think about it, the Spanish, because they had it for 300 years before they lost it. Followed by, I guess, the indigenous people that were here before the Spanish. And then maybe, in 4th place is Mexico's claim. The left in this country has cried for decades about how we kept kicking the Indians to the west. Every time we found arid or plantable land or gold. When did Mexico come into play? And you know what? Think about it. We even paid Mexico for it. About $2 billion. I think it was $17 million then. About $2 billion in gold in today's money. How nice of us. We still paid for the land even after beating Mexico's ass in a war. How is that stealing from Mexico? How is that stolen land from Mexico? If anything, it makes Mexico Indian givers. These deranged lunatics, they need to help themselves. And the first thing they should help themselves to is a freaking history book. Speaking of history books, lucky for us, CNN and MSNBC, they won't be writing them in the future. Because according to them, the riots that we see in California the last few days, they're actually peaceful. Well, I have a question for CNN, MSNBC, anyone that's saying that what we're seeing in California, or have saw, was peaceful. If it is, then why did Karen Bass implement a curfew? Why would she do that for peaceful protests? Oh my, this is like 1984 doublespeak. Yes.
Yeah, just this Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom. I got to tell you, they were talking about it seems like he's trying to set himself up for a 2028 presidential run. I thought, could you imagine if that guy becomes the leader of our country? How
the entire country is California with electric vehicles.
He's just so backwards. When he talks, it's hard to listen to him because it's just backwards BS.
Did you see any time that I don't know how active you are on Twitter or X? Anytime Gavin Newsom for a while was tweeting the past 4 days, Antonio Brown, former Pittsburgh Steeler, was posting about how he had sexual relations with his wife.
Okay, I did hear this.
And I don't know, but that's like getting more attention than what Gavin Newsom's saying, I feel like.
Yeah.
Again, they said the protests were peaceful. What we all said was that the protests were actually riots by foreign invaders, and they let them happen. Actually, time out here. We cannot call these people actually, I don't think we could call them invaders. They are begging us to house them and feed them for free. That doesn't make them invaders. That makes them more like leeches than invaders. Like the Huns didn't steamroll through Europe for free food and housing at the Roosevelt Hotel. Genghis Khan didn't sack cities to bring all of his relatives over and have them work landscaping jobs during the summer and then send the checks back to Mongolia. That wasn't the plan. But again, point being, they're not invaders. Think about it, audience. They're your replacement. They're going to cancel out your vote. Or at least that was the plan. But now the tables have turned. Ask yourself, how many voters did Gavin Newsom lose in the last week? How many? Not only the 300 and some that were deported, but how many that just watched what were going on and say, wait a minute, I'll never vote Democrat again. And that's why the news media is in damage control right now. Again, why did these riots start? What caused tens of thousands of people to all of a sudden burn and loot a U.S. sanctuary city? Tom Homan, he said it was the warehouse ice raid that set this whole thing off. He said that warehouse was the target of a multinational illegal money laundering scheme linked to the Mexican and Colombian cartels. So we got Central and South American on this. And he said that location is one of many that they're laundering hundreds of millions of dollars to fund their cartel activities. So ICE raids a cartel front business and protests start up with people in masks waving the Mexican flag. And some Americans want to support this and making it about deporting children. Ryan, have you watched any of the protests since our last episode or the?
I've done nothing but watch the protest. Actually, as a matter of fact, I'm sure you have some of this stuff in your notes that you're going to cover. But one of the things that I found really disturbing is when Maxine Waters got out there and she was in the face of I believe it was the National Guard, and she was yelling at him, "What are you going to do? What are you doing here? We don't need you here. We don't want you here. What are you going to shoot somebody with those guns?" And she's reading them the riot act, and these guys are just doing what they were told to do. They're standing there in their position, and Maxine Waters is treating them like they're enemies. She's really.
Do you remember her quote where you get these people faces, you tell them in restaurants and at gas stations, you're not welcome here. Remember when she said that?
That's exactly what she did.
Wow, and then it's crazy. All of a sudden, now did you see her get the door slammed in her face too? That was yeah.
I may have. It's been a lot. I've seen a lot over the past few days.
But it's going in Chicago now. I think Houston. There was another. Did you see the female army? The female army person, I guess we'll call it her. It was a woman wearing an army uniform. She said it was an army uniform that spoke out against ICE. I think it was in Houston, maybe. Did you see her talking about this is not what she put on the uniform for?
You know what? I did not see her.
Well, anyway, I saw that video and I was like, wow, an active duty U.S. military saying that. I didn't think you were even allowed to do that. Anyway, I looked into her, and people on X and social media looked into her. The whole thing was a lie. She lied. Turns out, let me see my notes here. She was discharged from the Texas National Guard on June 5th of 2020. So obviously she doesn't reflect anything the U.S. Army has to say. She was literally a National Guardsman. She did like a weekend a month. I'm not like minimizing what people do, but who cares what she has to say? She's been out for half a decade after doing a weekend a month. But why did she don her uniform and go to the TV cameras? Did she want to make it look like she was active duty or something? Or was that staged by CNN like whenever they brought that prisoner from Syria out in the sunlight and he didn't squint at all after being in a dark room for 6 weeks?
You know, and I just want to go back real quick before you get far beyond it. Was another thing, you know, when they're saying that the rioting didn't start till after Trump got there, or Trump sent the troops, which is BS. The first 2 days, the nights with the firing the fireworks at the police office, that was all before Trump sent the National Guard out there. Yeah. I mean, it was really bad. And then once they got there, it started to get slow every day since then. But those 2 days prior to was the worst days. And for them to stand up there and say that it got bad after he sent them, that's complete bull.
And Gavin Newsom could have called the National Guard then, but he didn't.
Imagine that.
And Trump did, because if I didn't, it'd have been burning. And I love the argument now that we're hearing that calling in the National Guard for some peaceful yet fiery protest is too much. Remember when the National Guard got called to Martha's Vineyard for 50 migrants that Ron DeSantis said there? We have a caller. Just send him over.
Hey.
Don, I brought that up. I don't know if do you remember whenever the National Guard got called to Martha's Vineyard over 50 migrants that Ron DeSantis said there, how big of a deal that was?
Those migrants never got their feet on the ground, did they?
I don't think so. They certainly didn't come in boats. They were flown there, but it was a big deal the manner they were flown there. The whole narrative fell apart that day, I think.
Well, that's because the governor of Texas, who Jasmine Crockett called Governor Ironside or something, making fun of a person's disability, right?
Yes.
Heaven help you if a Republican does that. I would have airlifted between 50 and 100,000 migrants to Martha's Vineyard. How about you? It would be like Genghis Khan.
I would have done it till the island tipped over. Till it capsized.
Hey, do you remember the movie Tombstone? Have you ever seen that?
Great movie.
Oh, Kurt Russell, I believe he actually captured Wyatt Earp. Great actor. And there's a scene where these boys are riding into town with guns, and that's against the law. You had to surrender your guns at the city limits, and somebody says, that's a misdemeanor, and Wyatt takes a cup of coffee. He's drinking his coffee, and he said, it'll blow over. And he said, but just in case, why don't you deputize me? Well, I think I've had enough, too. This Saturday night, I'm going to get a belly full of beer. This is a pretty laid-back town, Beaver Falls. Plus, they all know me. I'm going to walk down the street in a pair of tidy whities and a Baby Yoda T-shirt. Now, I could get away with that if I keep my mouth shut on the right night. Unless the police officer's really bored, how much you want to bet he takes the same stance that Wyatt Earp takes? We actually know this is a local nutcase. We're going to let it go. But they are within their rights to throw me in the drunk tank, correct, sir?
Yeah, absolutely.
If they throw me in the drunk tank, is there any way you could get some reptilian European billionaires to fly about 5,000 protesters in to protest me being thrown in the drunk tank?
We'll have to talk to Frank. We could get a couple dozen people from Beaver County Radio to go down there and protest. But
we could get that done. See, I have some empathy for the immigrants because a lot of them are they're better than the people that are living here and don't appreciate the country. Some of them.
The same people supporting them coming here, they're going to replace them. You're right.
Yeah. Well, no, don't even get me started. If I was elected president in 2028, the deportation of white liberals would begin immediately. There's just simply no way I'm not doing that. And I think I'm going to read the Constitution again. I think I could get away with it with a what's that called again? A executive order?
Well, I'm not joking around. If they take up arms against the government, you can technically strip them of citizenship and ship them out of here. You know that, right? You actually can. You actually can do that. I think that's one of the rules. You can be stripped of citizenship. I mean, usually they used to put people on the back of a horse with something over their head, ride them backwards out of the town. Remember? We could do that into Mexico.
Oh, no.
Into Mexico with the white liberals.
That happened around here when I was a little kid. I heard stories of certain guys that got in too many fights or whatever, and the cops actually took them to the gates of the city or explained to them somehow. I know it happened for a couple guys. You're not welcome here anymore. Now, how can you drink here if you're not welcome, right? Back in the steel plant days.
Yeah.
And aren't there rules against vagrancy?
Yeah. Yeah, you would think.
No. If I don't really like the workplace crackdowns because they're working. I'm not crazy about that. But to me, anyone throwing a hunk of concrete at a police officer needs to be on the next bus out, right?
Yeah. Do you think Trump baited them to do this by starting rounding up, by just rounding up everyone? Because at first it was just the dangerous people. The left was spiking the football that Biden had better numbers. And then I think he baited them into doing this by starting rounding up just everyone. And that's Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller had the Home Depot strategy, he called it. Just go to Home Depot. He said, I'll tag along. I can get a couple dozen.
Trump, it's taken me a long time to get this about him. He's one of these guys that's real smart, but acts dumb once in a while to keep you off your A game, isn't he?
Yes, he is. That's very scary because you don't know. The people don't realize that, I don't think. So.
No, and generally you don't marry supermodels and jet around the world in private airplanes if you're a big dummy like they describe them, right?
I'll give you a good example. You ever see the movie Patton?
What's that?
You ever see the movie Patton?
Yes.
Okay, he said, I read your book, because he beat General, I can't remember, Hermann Goering, maybe it might have been. He beat him at the Battle of...
Wait a minute, who was it? I'll think of it after I hang up the phone. Rommel. Field Marshal Rommel.
Rommel, you're right. He said, I read your book. You know, Trump wrote a book called The Art of the Deal that's basically The Art of War, just about business. And he explains this, all of his tactics. It's all right there. He wrote a book about it, but the left refuses. I don't know if they're like the anti-Jake Tapper. They just only want to read Jake Tapper's book and not Donald Trump's book. But his strategy is right in the book. It's very simple.
You know, I'm going to place another $2 bet. We know Joe wasn't running the country, right?
Correct.
AOC used to date Machine Gun Kelly, and Slim Shady shamed him out of the rap industry. I think Slim Shady is on the list of people that might have been running the country. Maybe George Clooney. Hey, is Gavin Newsom a reptile?
Oh, I don't know. He might be. They all might be. Not as much as the judges look like reptiles, but his hair is a little bit slicked back to be reptilian.
Oh, I heard the women on the...
We're all just joking here. Let's pretend we're in 7th grade. If they held him down, would you give him a buzz cut and cut that beautiful hair off for locks of love or something?
Absolutely. I would love to do that. Just like the Nazi, they did to the Nazi women after World War II ended in France. That kind of haircut.
Right. Absolutely.
Make him walk around the streets of Skid Row, too, with it. He'd fit right in.
Well, they call Trump a fascist. How soon do you think Mussolini would take care of some rioters?
Very quickly. It'd already be done. By the time you hang up.
That's it. Take care.
You too.
Thanks, Don.
Yep.
Don brought up Gavin Newsom. Ryan, did you see Gavin Newsom put out that tweet crying that he's gotten nothing from Trump, not even a phone call?
Yes, I did, of course.
And
yeah.
did you see Trump released a screenshot showing that he called him, what is it? Not once, but twice. He called him at 1:22 in the morning, which, if you look at California time, that's like 10:30 at night. And then again at 1:23, and again, that's 11 p.m. on the West Coast. I know Gavin Newsom isn't asleep. He's not Joe Biden, for crying out loud. But Gavin must have picked up the second time because we see the call and the screenshot lasted 16 minutes. So get this. Gavin Newsom did speak to him, and he just proves he lied again. He lied to the entire country, and Trump called him out and said he's a liar. But remember in January on this show when Newsom, because he has a history of lying about phone calls, that woman when the fires were going on ran up to him crying, going, "Why isn't there water? Help me with the water." And he said, "I'm on the phone." And he was lying.
Yeah.
He got caught again lying.
for the average American, that guy has zero appeal. And I got to be honest with you. Yesterday, I seen a clip from that show with all those geniuses, The View. they were on there saying, wow, wouldn't it be great to have somebody like Gavin Newsom running in 2028 so we could get back to having good-looking presidents? And they went on to say, oh, yeah, like JFK and Barack Obama. And they was like, we would love to have somebody good-looking like Gavin Newsom. I thought, oh, all right. I mean, like I said, he has zero appeal to Americans, the average American voter, as far as his politics.
And he may be a lizard. All right, speaking of lizards, how about that Mexican, the governor of California, the president of Mexico, Ms. Sheinbaum? She said, quote, if it's necessary, we will mobilize because we don't want taxes on remittances sent by our fellow countrymen from the U.S. to How is it possible that a Mexican president is threatening to mobilize protest on U.S. soil? And then, just did you see that guy dropping out the face shields?
Yes.
I guess he got arrested in a targeted FBI scheme. Now, tell me if I'm wrong here. In my opinion, we should waterboard this individual until he tells us who paid him to drop off that riot gear to the protester. Think about what this is. You got to look at the guy's picture. This is a military-aged male wearing camo and dropping off riot gear to rioters looking to destroy a U.S. city. And half the other country can't see it and supports it. And then my mind just snowballs. Remember the military Humvees that wound up missing in January?
Yeah.
And all those weapons, and they found 2 of them, but the armored one still missing? Remind Gavin Newsom of that. Hey, there's the armored Humvee, and you got National Guard. Remember, we don't know how many illegals are here, how dangerous they are. It could be 10 million with a few hundred that are dangerous, maybe a few thousand. Or it could be 20 million with over 100,000 that are dangerous. We just don't know. And we don't know because for some reason we don't keep track. Real quick, before we move to a break.
I bet you if they came through legally, we would keep track, Joe.
Yeah, we would. Look at what the governor said on Capitol Hill today as they were, it was a committee on sanctuary states, all the governors. We don't have that audio. New York Governor Kathy Hochul, I'll just read it. She admitted she doesn't track how many people come in. Foreigners, quote from her, foreigners have been coming to here for 400 years. We don't keep track of individuals based on their status. We make sure people have services, so they only want to pay them, and that's it. Give me a break. Give me a break. Why is the left and the media and all these people surprised that these large-scale deportations are happening? A few weeks ago, like I said, the media was spiking the football saying President Biden, or Zadopan, I should say, was responsible for more deportations than Trump. This was always Trump's plan. Just like Biden's plan, well, his handler's plan, I should say, was to fly dangerous third world people into the heart of the country. Before we leave, Ryan, played former Democrat Bataya Ungun Sardan. She went off on the entire CNN panel when they tried to say Donald Trump only promised to deport violent felons, not workers and families. I can't put it any better. Put it in that, and then we'll go to a commercial.
I hear this talking point a lot from Democrats that Donald Trump misled the American people and somehow said he was only going to deport violent criminals.
He said he was going to prioritize
At
violent
every
criminals.
single rally that I watched, he said, we are going to have the largest deportation operation in American history. And the reason he did that is because that position has majority support with the American people. And that position is what got him the majority of working class people. Because immigration is a topic that divides the working class from the elites. 100%. The elites are the consumers of low-wage labor. And when you guys say they're taking people from the community, what you mean is they're taking people from the workforce, people who undercut the wages of American workers, which is why the working class flipped from the Democrats to the Republicans.
Democrats saying that, and there will be more that flip. Stay tuned to listen to Thinking Logically here on 99.3 FM WBVP. It's Joe again from Thinking Logically, here to tell you about one of my favorite clothing items, the MyPillow hoodie. 2 things I love the most about this hoodie are how it fits and how it feels. This hoodie is extremely roomy, and its terry cloth material makes it lighter than any other hoodie I own. Use promo code LOGIC to maximize your savings. The MyPillow hoodie. Get yours today. It's Joe Corsi here from Thinking Logically to tell you about Beaver County's #1 realtor, Mark Galla with RE/MAX Select Realty. With over 10 years experience, Mark knows all the ins and outs of the real estate business, so whether you're looking to rent, buy, sell, or swap your house, you can rely on Mark to take the hassle out. Mark Galla of RE/MAX Select Realty, going above and beyond.
Tri-State Sporting Arms on Main Street in New Brighton is now open. Stop in and explore their extensive selection of high-quality firearms, pistols, and accessories. Tri-State Sporting Arms also pays top dollar for used firearms. Their experienced and highly trained staff is here to assist you in selecting the right firearm for you. Stop on down to Beaver County's newest firearm store, Tri-State Sporting Arms, at 807 3rd Avenue, New Brighton, or check them out on Facebook.
Have you ever wanted to work in radio? Well, now is your chance. St. Barnabas Broadcasting is a network of 11 radio stations, and we are looking for account executives to introduce St. Barnabas Broadcasting and digital media to new prospective clients and grow existing ones. Experience in sales is preferred. Interested prospective candidates can apply by sending their resume to fsparks@beavercountyradio.com or by calling 724-444-JOBS.
The views and opinions expressed on WBVP and WMBA are those of the participants and host. They are not necessarily the viewpoint of WBVP and WMBA, its staff, management, and advertisers. Thank you for listening to WBVP and WMBA.
Welcome back to Thinking Logically here on 99.3 FM WBVP. Earlier we were talking about the protests going on in LA, the anti-ICE protest, riots, whatever nomenclature you want to use. Now we're going to move on to more other stories from Afghanistan. Immigrants from Afghanistan instead of south of the border. So this is from the New York Post. Biden administration evacuated 55 Afghans on terror watch list to the United States during botched withdrawal. That's from a DOJ watchdog. So the FBI's terrorist screening center identified 55 Afghans that were either already on the terrorist watch list and made it to a U.S. port of entry or were added to the database during the evacuation and resettlement process, the report found. After investigations, the FBI eventually removed 46 evacuees from the watch list, determining that they had posed no threat to our homeland. However, 9 remained on that terror database as of July 2024, and 8 were still in the U.S. Okay, so only 8 doesn't sound that bad, right, audience? Well, just like hitting a ball in baseball, it only takes 1, because last October, the DOJ charged an Afghan national brought to the United States during the chaotic withdrawal with plotting an ISIS-inspired Election Day terror attack. I think we covered that. Nassar Montalaweed, 27, living in Oklahoma City. He had a bunch of AK-47 rifles stockpiled, all kind of other stuff. He was entered to the U.S. in September 9th, 2021, just a few weeks after the Taliban regained control and the last U.S. troops departed the war-torn nation. He's now charged with conspiring and attempted to provide material support to ISIS and is currently awaiting trial. And again, what makes it worse is the Biden administration lied when they said all of these people coming over were vetted. Remember Jen Psaki? She said every refugee was, quote, extremely vetted. She sat at the White House podium and said that. And what did all of our fearless journalists do? What did Jake Tapper do? Can't wait for his book on that one. No, they smeared anyone suggesting this might not be a wise move and actually a dangerous move for our communities. Now, Jen Psaki has an MSNBC show. See how it works, audience? Okay, speaking of the DNC, David Hogg pulled out by DNC. So this is breaking. DNC members voted 294 to 99 to annul vice chair victory of David Hogg, citing diversity quotas. It sounds like something you hear in a high school boys' locker room. DNC pulls Hogg out.
Yes, it sure does.
Malcolm Kenyatta's win as vice chair is also annulled over gender diversity. For those of you that don't know, he's black. So gender diversity, gender now trumps race in the Democrat Party. Good to know that. But back to David Hogg. The DNC, think about that. The DNC replaced a gay male to promote diversity. How diverse are we about to get in the Democrat Party? Again, audience, just to reinforce, during Pride Month, the DNC got rid of David Hogg, who, I mean, let's be real, he's most likely gay. Come on. He eats his corn on the cob the long way, I'm sure. Anyway, the DNC got rid of him in the name of diversity. Listen to what this really means. It doesn't matter if you're gay or straight. If you're a man, you can't be in a leadership role in the Democrat National Party. Imagine that. maybe he should cut his hog off and go trans. Funny thing is, that's what it would take for David Hogg to keep his leadership role. That's all he could do. David Hogg would have to cut off this member in a football stadium filled with people clapping like seals, I'm sure, or start chemically transition. One or the other. That's his only chance to be in the DNC and a leadership. This is a crazy world we live in. So the ballot, I guess, had 5 names on it. 2 men and 3 women. And the voters were instructed to vote for 2 of the 5. But one of them, these are all part of one of them had to be a male. And one of them had to be a female. And somehow this led to 2 males winning. Did I read that correctly? They were given 5 people to choose from, but had to pick at least 1 male. So they were forced to choose a candidate based on the DNC's racial and sexual gender criteria. That is some interesting logic.
Joe, can I just chime in real quick on that? And I think it's interesting as well, because especially since somebody that I think we all admire, Martin Luther King, said that we should be judged on the content of our character, not on the color of our skin.
He's black now. It doesn't matter. That's so 1960 stuff. It's about gender diversity today, Ryan.
But you see what I'm saying, though? It's not about the content of their character. If it's not,
no, you're right.
So,
to be fair, David Hogg's character sucked too. Well, let's be real. I mean, it sucked really bad, but I mean, I agree with you completely.
Fight that's been fought for decades. Now all of a sudden it's different, like with the DEI and things like that. That's not what Martin Luther King said. That's the opposite. You should be given on your merit, on what you could do, not your skin. And that's exactly what the DEI and things like that do. They give it to you by your skin, not by your merit.
The Democrat Party has had a wild ride with the black community. First they enslave them. Then when they finally stop enslaving them, they burn crosses in their yard. Then they give them a little bit of free money. What happens next? They get replaced with trannies. I don't understand.
And after
they went from Martin Luther King to trannies.
And they've been being lied to all these years, because all the help that they were supposedly be getting from the Democrats, a lot of time, it just didn't turn out that way, did it?
No, it did not turn that way at all. Again, the voters didn't listen when they says you have to vote on this card, and they still voted for 2 males, and they said, nope, doesn't count. We're redoing the election. I don't get it. Yeah. It's funny, I guess. We can laugh about it.
It's insane.
It is crazy. So that's the Democrat Party right now. It makes you wonder why RFK Jr. left the party. Now it makes total sense. If they would have just ran him, if they would have just said, here, RFK Jr., you could do whatever you want with the environment. You have total control of the environment. They might have won with Kamala. They might have at least had a chance. But instead, no, they ostracized RFK Jr. and called him crazy. And now look where he is. He's fighting back against the Democrats. Did you see what he did with the vaccines on Tuesday or Wednesday?
I heard about this, yes.
So this is from RFK Jr. He fired all 17 people off the vaccine board. He posted this. A compliant child must take between 69 and 92 vaccines to stay in a school in most states. And not one of them has been safely tested in a pre-licensed placebo-controlled trial. And that is just malpractice. So the people who are in charge of that are now gone. And again, he fired all 17. He also posted this. On Monday, I took a major step towards restoring public trust in vaccines by reconstituting the Advisory Committee for Immunization Practices, ACIP. I retired the 17 current members of the committee. I'm now repopulating the ACIP with the 8 new members who will attend ACIP's scheduled June 25th meeting. The slate includes highly credentialed scientists, leading public health experts, and some of America's most accomplished physicians. All of these individuals are committed to evidence-based medicine, gold standard science, and common sense. They have each committed to demanding definitive safety and efficiency data before making any new vaccine recommendations. The committee will review safety and efficiency data for the current schedule as well. I'm proud to announce ACIP's new members, and he listed all the members. The one that caught me, remember Dr. Robert Malone? He was on Joe Rogan a few times. He was the ivermectin guy. He actually had a hand in the mRNA. Got a decent beard.
Yeah. I could think of that.
He's famous for this quote. You are more likely to become infected, have a disease, or even die if you've been vaccinated with the COVID-19 vaccine compared to the unvaccinated. These experimental gene therapy treatments can permanently damage the DNA and immune system of your children and yourself. He said that. The guy that helped develop mRNA vaccines said that. Should we listen? I don't know. Maybe we should give him a voice. We should give him a platform. But people were saying, no matter what RFK does, no matter what anyone in the Trump administration does, it's a bad thing. You mean to tell me that we weren't reviewing them? We weren't reviewing these vaccines in controlled placebo-type experiments? Are you kidding me? I don't know. I don't understand it. Like RFK Jr. said, sounds like malpractice, and we're going to fix it. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, we covered the riots in L.A., the protests in L.A., whatever you want to call them, another anti-ICE protest. We come back, we're going to cover the No Kings protest. Stay tuned. You're listening to Think Logically here on 99.3 FM WBVP.
It's Joe Corsi here from Thinking Logically to tell you about Beaver County's #1 realtor, Mark Gulla with RE/MAX Select Realty. With over 10 years experience, Mark knows all the ins and outs of the real estate business, so whether you're looking to rent, buy, sell, or swap your house, you can rely on Mark to take the hassle out. Mark Gulla of RE/MAX Select Realty, going above and beyond. It's Joe again from Thinking Logically, here to tell you about one of my favorite clothing items, the MyPillow hoodie. Two things I love the most about this hoodie are how it fits and how it feels. This hoodie is extremely roomy, and its terry cloth material makes it lighter than any other hoodie I own. Use promo code LOGIC to maximize your savings. The MyPillow hoodie. Get yours today.
Beaver County Boom is turning 15 on June 28th, and Push Beaver County is celebrating by presenting an encore of Zambelli International's gold medal-winning Cosmic Connection show. The 15th annual Beaver County Boom is presented by Visit Beaver County. Air Heritage's vintage C-47 military airplane, the Luck of the Irish, will fly over along with skydivers, and it will all be followed up by the star of the show, Beaver County Boom at 9:45 p.m. All the action takes place over the Ohio River between Monaca and Rochester. Bring your radio along or listen on your smart device to the Clearview Federal Credit Union live broadcast on Beaver County Radio beginning at 6. Title presenter sponsor of Beaver County Boom is Visit Beaver County. Some gold sponsors include Air Systems Mechanical, Randy Forner Realtor with Berkshire Hathaway, the preferred realtor in Beaver, Brighton Hot Dog Shop, Edward Jones Investments, Tyson Smith CRPC, among others. Don't miss Beaver County Boom, Saturday, June 28th.
The views and opinions expressed on WBVP and WMBA are those of the participants and host. They are not necessarily the viewpoint of WBVP and WMBA, its staff, management, and advertisers. Thank you for listening to WBVP and WMBA.
Oh, Don, you're a little controversial. You're talking about illegal immigration. I said it's illegal.
If I would have just opened every segment up with that soundbite. Right. I mean, okay, so we are talking about illegal immigration still a little bit because it is illegal. And this happened literally last episode. As I was shutting my laptop, I saw this. So a Democrat in Minnesota, Representative Koloi Vong Her, I don't even know if that's how you say her name or not. She was on the state house floor in Minnesota. And she admitted on that state house floor that she's an illegal alien. Did you see this? Did you hear about this, Ryan?
I did not.
Yeah, a state representative. It'd be like Josh Kell or Roman. They were here today. It'd be like if they came on the radio today, hey, say, by the way, my name's Roman, and actually, my grandparents are from Ukraine. I'm here illegally.
Yeah.
And I'm actually a state representative. What do you think the Democrats would do? Get out of here? So again, this woman is an illegal alien. So she's here illegally. She's from another country. How the hell did she get elected to state office in Minnesota? I mean, that's got to be illegal alone, right? And she just openly admitted, fearlessly.
Why did Minnesota get so crazy with they got a bunch of nuts up there?
Just out of curiosity. Did she vote for Kamala Harris too? I mean, see what I mean?
Yeah.
Are all the people that voted for Kamala Harris dead or illegal? Or the hard R word? We don't want to say it. We don't want to be mean. I mean, think about it. She got elected by lying. She's not even a citizen. If she would have said that during the campaign trail, she'd have been gone. That's voter fraud. How often does this stuff happen? This is why they all have to go. They're living amongst us. Maybe we need to check every single representative now in every single state, everywhere. to make sure everyone's a citizen. Let me see your citizen card, Ryan, right now. I'm serious. They don't vote like they're citizens sometimes, and that makes you wonder. Now it makes sense. Moving from a state house representative person who, again, isn't even a citizen, but is in the state house, let's move to the actual House of Representatives. Representative LaMonica McIver. Now, she got involved with ICE, and she actually struck an ICE agent. MacGyver. You figure with a name like MacGyver, she'd get away with it, right? She did something like. So a federal grand jury seated in Newark, New Jersey, returned a 3-count indictment charging U.S. Representative LaMonica McIver with forcibly impeding and interfering with federal law enforcement officers. This indictment has a maximum penalty of, audience, brace for impact, 8 years for count 1, and an additional maximum penalty of 8 years for count 2, and a maximum penalty of 1 year in prison for count 3. How do they go concurrently? Like Andy Dufresne had to get his back to back to back to back. So that's like 17 years right there in prison. And Alina Habba actually put that out, who is the U.S. Attorney of New Jersey, I think she's the acting U.S. Attorney. Now, Representative MacGyver, LaMonica McIver, whatever you want to, she put out a post on X and said this: "This indictment is no more justifiable than the original charges. I will not be intimidated." And she goes on and says, "My full statement, ... And then she attached a written statement. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even read it because who cares what she said? She broke the law. She assaulted a federal officer. Throw her out of Congress. I mean, let's make some moves here today. They tossed George Santos out of Congress and sent him to prison for way less. Have a vote tomorrow and expel her ass. Get her out now." Am I a little bit too loud, too energized right now, Ryan?
No.
I didn't even drink coffee or anything today. I did have 2 tacos before I came in, which is ironic, and maybe that's why I'm fired up off the Mexican food. I don't know. Another one. This is today. Democrat U.S. Senator Alex Padilla, I don't even know how you say his name, of California, just got forcibly removed after he crashed Homeland Security Kristi Noem's press conference. I guess it was about ICE. Anyway, play the audio of that little interaction real quick of the scuffle, him getting tossed out.
I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have a question for the Secretary, because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen selling criminals that you're rotating on your hands off.
How many of our ICE agents have been doxxed for doing their duty?
Luckily, he was raised mostly on soy milk, so it wasn't that hard to throw him out of there. But again, I'm not saying he was trying to attack Kristi Noem, but it looks, hey, we don't know in 2025. He lunged at Kristi Noem and was grabbed up and was shoved out of there. And I remember hearing the phrase for months, actually for almost a year, that, quote, "No one is above the law." Lunging at the Secretary of Homeland Security and then fighting with federal officials sounds like a crime. Sounds like you're breaking the law. You know the rules, and so do I. We got to try to fit that in every episode because it is just so appropriate. Like with COVID, I wish I would have had this show during COVID, because remember the COVID rules, and then Dr. Fauci would just break all the COVID rules, like show up to the Nationals game with no mask in the water with his family. You know the rules, and so do I. Apparently, you don't. All right, who we got here? John Fetterman, who we don't know. He's like one of those. Did you ever see what's the movie with Jack Skellington? Nightmare Before Christmas, the one mayor, his face turns around and he's like happy and his face turns back around.
Yeah.
That's like John Fetterman. In 2021 and 2022, he had like the Democrat face, and then all of a sudden it turned around and he's just ultra MAGA all of a sudden.
All of a sudden he's making sense.
He posts this, and it's a picture of a man waving a Mexican flag in Los Angeles and the city burning. He said, "I unapologetically stand for free speech, peaceful demonstrations, and immigration. But this is not that. This is anarchy and true chaos. My party loses the moral high ground when we refuse to condemn setting cars on fire, destroying business, and assaulting law enforcement." And sometimes I just wonder, am I in a coma? Did I enter a coma sometime in the last 5 years, 6 years maybe? And this is all a dream. Because the way these people, it's like WWF, the way he was heel and then turned good. And it's like, it's the opposite of when Hogan dropped the leg drop on Macho Man Randy Savage. And oddly enough, it was called the NWO too.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
George Soros in the back going like this.
Right.
Yes, excellent. Anyway, that's where we are. All right, we got to move to the No Kings protest before we get back on time. So the No Kings protest is when millions of Americans are expected to take to the streets this Saturday, June 14th, to oppose Trump's dictator-style birthday parade. On social media on X, Data Republican, the account Data Republican, she tweeted this out. She said, Indivisible, the organizer behind this week's No Kings protest, received $7 million from George Soros. And then she said, for the 100th time, it's important to understand that the LA riots and the upcoming No Kings protests have different backers and ideologies. LA riots was funded by Neville Singham, a CCP activist who is vehemently anti-Western and a true Marxist. The No Kings is funded by pro-Western influences, which includes Soros, left-wing globalists, etc. That makes sense. It's almost kind of like you get World War II. We got the Nazis and the Japanese, so we're fighting against a two-front war. You got the Chinese through the Mexico and the cartels and the fentanyl coming up through California. Am I painting this picture all right? And you got the No Kings protests, which is mostly probably old school European NGO money that would affect maybe the East Coast, New York City, stuff like that. Just throwing it out there. You shop at Walmart, Ryan?
I some things you just have to, yeah.
So Christy Walton, she's, I guess we can call her the heiress. That's a cool term, heiress. The heiress of Walmart. She's funding, I believe, one of these protests in New York City, maybe, I believe. And she had a poster out and everything about it. So I don't know. I shop at Walmart. What are you going to do? I do go there. But again, how do people get away with this? Now, if something happens during one of these protests in New York City and someone dies, which I think is the plan, have someone killed during these protests so we could parlay them into another protest, or maybe do like a 5-team party. You could have one person killed for each separate race in each separate city, and have like a George Floyd times 1,000. 5-team parlay pays out 20-1, right? Hey, make the Summer of Love look like an 8th grade ice cream social there. Maybe that's the plan. I don't know. But again, they're calling this the No Kings protest because I guess they assume Trump only had this because it was his birthday. As if it's Billy Madison graduating from school. We get one of the grades again. Trump can't help it. His birthday falls on the same day as the U.S. Army. I mean, what do you want? Besides, we've had numerous military parades in this country. After the Iraq War, I believe. After the World War II, maybe. Or World War I. I can't remember which one. We've had numerous. It's time for one. We should be proud of it. All right, so these protests are going to take place all over the country. Ron, you pointed out there's over 100. You got one in Beaver, one in Cranberry. The major cities we're talking about. Let's talk gambling. What is the over-under? How many cities will be burning? We'll not say the end of this weekend. Let's give it all the way to the 4th of July weekend. So leading up to that weekend, because it's only about 3 weeks away, I'm going to set the number 11.5 cities over-under. And I'm going to go with the over. So this means the destruction has to be equal or worse to what we saw at LA, burning cars, something like that. That LA counts. So we're already at 1. We already have 1 goal. You're betting the live line now, technically. Burning cars, looting businesses, foreign flags could be flying, something like that. However, because this is possible, if a said city wins a major sports championship, then I guess we can't count it towards the total. I don't think. That can't go towards the total. So I'm going to say LA, Chicago, New York City, Atlanta, Denver, Seattle, Philly, Boston, Minneapolis, Berkeley. Did I say Houston? Houston, Baltimore. I don't think Pittsburgh will be on it, at least one of the bad ones. But I'm telling you, we're going to see some of these cities go up in flames in the next 3 weeks. It sounds crazy to say. What do you think?
I think something's going to happen. I don't know enough to make that kind of prediction, but it sure doesn't seem like it's going well. And as you said, maybe if somebody dies or something else comes along the way, it could get a lot worse.
Remember, a military Humvee was stolen. What if a National Guardsman, like at Kent University, shoots a bunch of college people in the face and kills a bunch of college people? I mean, can you imagine that? I feel like we'd be able to get to the bottom of it really quick, but you can't trust the news media.
No, not at all.
And I feel like it's scary, but that's like a real possibility. Again, that story just flew under the radar. Remember the 2 Army individuals that were caught as running security for the one cartel operation?
Yeah.
We covered that a few weeks ago. Again, weird. Never got any answers about that. But again, there is a protest in Cranberry, Beaver, if you're local around here. Should I go with a microphone and ask all the attendees their thoughts? The giant picture of Kilmar Abrego, Diego Garcia Parra.
I think you
giant
should
picture and ask them what they thought.
Neutralize it a little bit because they're sending a lot of people out to protest and counter protest. I think would be appropriate.
Okay.
I see no problem with that.
All right, we'll have to look into that. I'll see if my wife will let me go. Highly unlikely that she will let me go to a protest this weekend. A counter protest this weekend. All right, we got to take one more break, though. When we return, did Elon Musk and President Trump squash their beef? Have cooler heads prevailed? I don't know. Stay tuned. You're listening to Thinking Logically here on 99.3 FM, WBVP.
Tune in to Beaver County Radio 99.3 FM and 1230 WBVP every Monday and Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. for Thinking Logically with Joe Corsai. It is an all-new show that takes a look at the conservative side of politics. Thinking Logically is also presented on the WBVP-WNBA Facebook page and YouTube channel. That's Thinking Logically with Joe Corsai each and every Monday and Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. right here on Beaver County Radio.
The views and opinions expressed on WBVP and WNBA are those of the participants and host. They are not necessarily the viewpoint of WBVP and WNBA, its staff, management, and advertisers. Thank you for listening to WBVP and WNBA.
Welcome back to Thinking Logically here on 99.3 FM, WBVP. Still a few stories to get to, but first, let me tell you about one of our favorite sponsors. So Fresh, So Clean Pressure Washing. Remember, whether you need your house washed, driveway cleaned, patio done, fences, gutters, you name it, call Dave from So Fresh, So Clean Pressure Washing at 724-252-4489. That's 724-252-4489. They're fully insured and they offer free estimates. So what are you waiting for? Don't be the outcast in your neighborhood with a dirty Decker house. Call Dave from So Fresh, So Clean Pressure Washing today. Okay, so updating a few stories. The Texas School District apparently has surveillance footage of the fatal Austin Metcalf stabbing, but will not publicly release the video. And just to move along here, I'm actually okay with this. The first people to see that video should be the jury. Why taint anyone's mind? Air India plane AI-171 crashed into Medical College in Ahmedabad. Air India flight AI-171, a Boeing 787 Dreamliner with 242 people on board, crashed shortly after takeoff. The plane struck a doctor's hostel and dining hall, killing at least 5 medical students. Did you see this picture?
I haven't.
Look, the building is still standing after being hit by a Boeing 787. Really? The plane was unable to knock down a brick house, but on 9/11, planes knocked down 2 concrete skyscrapers with reinforced steel and an additional building known as Building 7, which wasn't hit by a plane but still fell into its own footprint. But they can't knock over a brick doctor's office. I'm sorry for that outlandish outburst, but apparently there was a survivor. I wonder if he's still holding on to his half-burnt passport that's a mile away. Anyway, Ramesh Vilswaga-Kumar is allegedly the sole survivor of an Air India crash. I'm sorry, I'm calling it right now. They're saying he was in seat 11A. He claims he escaped by jumping from the plane. Okay, Indian scammer. Calling it right now. Scammer. He's a scammer. There's no way he survived that plane crash by jumping out. Jumping out of the plane? A jumbo jet? I've had it. But there was a plane crash and people died. Sad. But again.
Where was that plane? I did see the story. Where was the plane heading to?
London.
London, okay.
It sounds like it's a pretty big plane and have a lot of jet fuel, enough to melt brick.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's not across the street. London from India is not across the street.
Right.
I know they were a colony of the United Kingdom in Great Britain for a long time, but it was quite a lot. They had to go across Africa and the Cape of Good Hope. All right, let's just move along here. Anti-ICE rider says ICE shot him in the, we'll call it balls, and now he is losing one of them. So I say congratulations, you're halfway done with your transition. Elon Musk, let's cover the beef real quick. He put out a post on X and says, quote, "I regret some of my posts about President Trump last week. They went too far." And I guess Trump let everyone know that he is willing, he will forgive him. Again, we've been asking for a week. Was that spat they had? Was it kayfabe? Was it a WWE angle? Did it force the deep state, the Democrats, the globalists? Did it make them want to make a move? And maybe that's why we're seeing these riots and everything else that's going on. Maybe they thought that Trump and his administration was in complete and utter disarray and that it was a good time to make a move. Also, the media went very silent on the Epstein allegations from Elon, and that's just insane, right?
Absolutely.
Weird. That is just weird, and we're just going to call it weird and move along. Okay. For those of you that don't know, the Republicans have a razor-thin majority in the House of Representatives, but for some reason, Mark Green decided yesterday he's going to call it quits and retire from Congress before the end of his term. So he tweeted this out. After 40 years of public service, I'm stepping back from my position as congressman. Thank you to all the people of Tennessee 7 who have supported me during my tenure. So again, just to reinforce, his departure narrows the GOP majority to 219 to 212. And Mark Green, he did impeach former DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, and he was a key figure in the border security policy. So why is he leaving now? There's no details of his new role. They're undisclosed. His departure timing is suspect. He's on the Homeland Security Committee too. And again, why now? Was he paid off to leave? He said he got a job in the private sector. Maybe someone offered him a lot of money to leave. Is the plan to try to make sure nothing ever gets passed, or to get a rhino in to replace him? I don't know. I don't know. All right. We're about out of time here, but final story. The State Department is ordering non-essential personnel, this is yesterday, to leave the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad and other diplomatic facilities in Bahrain and Kuwait. A maritime advisory has also been issued warning of possible military actions that could pose risk to regional commercial and naval traffic. So I guess maybe this is the deep state assuming the best way to stop mass deportations in all of Trump's other agenda is to have Israel start a war with Iran. An attack on Iran would change the entire narrative in this country, and it would divide the MAGA movement. It's exactly what I'm sure the deep state or the Democrats, I'm sure exactly what they want and what they need. Let's not get fooled into another 9/11. It's so weird that plane crashed into a building and didn't topple a 2-story brick building.
Yeah.
Again, just... Closing message, Kash Patel, everyone else. You see there's riots going on. We're not going to call it an insurrection yet, but there's definitely protests. There's definitely riots going on across the country. In the coming days and weeks, what could be a better time for Kash Patel and the FBI to release some of that January 6th information, especially the pipe bomber? Let's show the world what a real insurrection against the sitting president was like. Let's show them who was really involved. Let's steal the narrative back before it gets out of our hands. Again, we have them on their heels. We've had them on their heels for a while now. Let's not stop. Let's not stop now, please. All right, Ryan, that's about all we have for today. I do want to talk Pirates for a second.
Let me just ask you one quick question, Joe. Like right now, we see this, what's going on with what's going on in Los Angeles and cities all around the country. And you know that I often bring it up here on the show about, the European countries are kind of dealing with a similar situation with a lot of people coming from the Middle East and North Africa. And also the people in Israel have this issue with the Palestinians. Why do all the Western civilization countries around the planet right now, are they having some kind of an invasion situation going on? Why is it?
And why is it done by their own government?
You're right, because these are all Western civilizations. Go one to the next, to the next, to the next. Everybody has an issue right now with some kind of migration, being overtaken by the migration. This is not by any means an accident.
No, it's not. It's not. And they all want to do the same thing. Green New Deal, do stuff like that. How funny is it that Greta Thunberg went from Green New Deal stuff to getting arrested by Israel, and then she faked being in handcuffs, and then she's back where she needs to be, where she deserves to be.
Did you hear the message? Like, she left a message for people just in case. I don't know what it was.
She abandoned her people that were down there, though. She willingly left and went back home. She left the people down there. I mean, she didn't want to leave, I don't think. They told her to leave. She didn't want to leave, so she was detained. That's what happened. Anyway, I wanted to say about the Pirates before we get out of here.
Yes.
So next Thursday, the Pirates play at 1:10, and we will be, preempted, prompted, whatever, something by them. So we were either going to be here next Wednesday or we were going to pre-record the episode and it'll just be released as soon as the Pirates are over next Thursday. But that's all we have for today. It's Thursday. We'll be back on Monday, same time on Monday, 3 to 4 p.m. Until then, I'm Joe Corsai signing off here, 99.3 FM WBVP for Thinking Logically. See you Monday.
The views and opinions expressed on WBVP and WMBA are those of the participants and host. They are not necessarily the viewpoint of WBVP